Hey downtown van. Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
You're listening to Hey Downtown Van, hosted by the Downtown Vancouver BIA.
Hey Downtown Van, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Sofia Laratta, and today I'm joined by Downtown Van President and CEO Jane Talbot and our special guest, Luca Citton. Luca is president of Boughton Law and a corporate and commercial lawyer who advises businesses on transactions, growth, and operations. He also practices intellectual property law as a registered Canadian trademark agent and is active in community leadership across Greater Vancouver. We will get more into his leadership role in the podcast. He was also a former board chair of Downtown Van, and he's my Italian brother. So we're very excited to have Luca on the podcast today, and we hope you enjoy. Luca, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We're so happy that you're here.
Yeah, it's been a while. Every time I kept seeing it come out, I was like, why am I not on this?
Well,
How come I was never asked?
Today's
What's
your
that
lucky
about?
day.
I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
Today's our
We're
lucky
turning this
day.
around. I'm going to interview you.
Well, you can if you want, but today is about you.
Okay.
So let's get into
Like
it.
every day, my wife will say.
So for people that don't know your story, you have a very interesting background. How did you end up at Boughton Law, and did you always see yourself in law?
No. I mean, I think, you have... when you speak to lawyers, there's a couple different types of lawyers. You'll have those guys who are just, I love it, and I go home and I read textbooks about it, and since I was a kid, I was arguing and I wanted to be a lawyer, and that's, I think, mostly posturing. I don't think how anyone who says that I put much stock in what they're saying. Probably like a lot of kids today, I had an arts degree in philosophy, and you sort of, you look around in your second and third year university, and you're like, okay, I like doing what I'm studying, but it's clearly not going to lead me to a job.
Yeah, there's no career
No,
path.
there's nothing
Yeah.
to be done. So either I change my major and study something else like business or economics or whatever, or I do a secondary degree.
Mm-hmm.
And, with an arts degree, particularly philosophy, there's not really a lot of secondary degrees. I mean, you're teaching or you're going to go to law school. And so I didn't like kids. And so here we are in law. It's been 25 years. 25 years that I've been practicing now. I had this weird epiphany the other day that I've now been practicing law longer than I was not in my life. Like I've been a lawyer longer than I've not been a lawyer over the span of my life, because I turned 50 last year. And it's crazy. Like I did not expect when I went to law school that this was going to be a long-term thing. I thought I would go to law school, I would do a few years as a lawyer, and then it would turn into something else. But, you blink and then it's 25 years later.
Yeah, time flies.
Very fast.
I had a law school dream recently where I was like, I'm going to go to law school. And then my mom was like, don't do it.
Wait, an actual dream or
I was like,
you were actually considering it?
I was actually considering it. I don't know why.
I think you would do very well.
Thank you.
You're
I think
welcome.
it's tough now. Like students, the practice, the profession, and you could talk about this for hours, but with the onset of AI tools and everything
Oh,
else,
yeah.
the threat to our profession, and I don't even want to say threat because that's not I don't want to create pessimism, but for younger lawyers, they're going to have to figure out a way very quickly how to show value when what they historically used to do that is now being done by a tool.
Mm.
To do over, would you follow the same career path?
No, listen, I went to law school in Queens and in Ontario, and the schools in Ontario push you to Bay Street. And so I graduated 2001 and was articling during 9/11. I remember being in the office when that happened, and I remember thinking, and then everything went to crap. Everyone, like, there were no jobs around, and I remember thinking I should have gone to Toronto and done the path that the schools were pushing us, gone to Bay Street, because there were more jobs than Vancouver at the time, and it was greater pay. Still is. Like, you work on Bay Street and there's way more money for lawyers. And for a number of years, I regretted not having done that and instead coming back to Vancouver. But I have a very close family and Italian family, and they, for anyone who has an Italian mother, when you're away for school, they always want you to come back.
Yes.
And there was a lot of pressure to come back to Vancouver, and I obviously wanted to. But yeah, for a number of years, I thought I should have stayed in Toronto, and that was a mistake. Now, no, I don't think. I don't regret that decision.
Yeah.
But for a number of years, I thought that Vancouver, financially and career-wise, was not the right choice.
Okay, so you've been doing this for 25 years. When you look back on that time, what shaped you as a leader the most?
A lot of stuff is well, I mean, the easy answer I would say is, as a lawyer, you have a really defined career path. You article. If you're lucky, you get hired back at the law firm. You become an associate. After a certain number of years, you become a partner, and so it's really set in stone, uh, the path to leadership in a law firm. But really, I think it was what some of the stuff we're going to talk about today, which is volunteering and being involved in non-legal initiatives and businesses and not-for-profits that really aided in creating that kind of um, that attitude, that leadership mindset, that leadership attitude. Because, as I said, until you get to a certain level in law, you're not really given that. But I was doing things as chairing boards as a 3 or 4 year lawyer, and so that I think made leadership a much easier transition in the
Yeah.
law firm. I had done things outside the law firm in a leadership role that all of a sudden made it very easy to sit around a partnership table and deal with very angry lawyers,
Yeah.
right?
I've known you for 8 years now, and I've always admired how giving of your time you are.
Listen, I mean, you make choices. My wife and I made life choices, certain things about, decisions about family planning and rather the lack thereof. And so that we have time for ourselves and
Yeah.
time for travel and other things. And I've always put a lot of value in, that sort of volunteerism and that community giving, because what's the alternative? I'm going home and I watch TV. Like, I have time. I mean, we're at a desk for the most part, during the day, so I can answer the phone, whether it's you calling me or it's a
Hmm.
client.
Hmm.
It's just,
Yeah.
someone else I'm speaking to.
So you mentioned that you have an Italian mother,
Yeah.
as do I. How did your upbringing as the son of Italian immigrants shape your approach to leadership, community, but even just who you are as a person?
Yeah, that's a good question. Although I did want to check, though, in
Shape
case we had
your
any
approach
listeners on the line who want to ask call in with any questions.
community, but
Do we
even
want to
just
do
who
that
you
first before we get to this?
maybe we'll keep going and then
Okay.
we'll see who you are
So
as a
then what you're saying
person.
is no callers.
No callers
Nobody's
yet.
on the line
No,
yet?
not yet.
Are we showing the number? 1-800-ADT Van?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, because that's the call-in number, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just give us a shout.
Okay.
Ask
Any
Luca
questions
anything you want.
to the audience? I'm an open book. Any questions you want to ask? Just this number below. ADT Van, 1-800-ADT Van. Feel free to call it. Sorry, the question was again.
How did
yes, family.
yes.
This number below. ADT Van. Feel free to call it. Sorry.
How did
Oh yes, family.
yes.
Family.
Yes. How did
Oh yes, family.
yes.
Family.
Yes.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for them. They were sort of pushed into things that they had to do. And what you find in those kind of immigrant households, as a child, is that s- secondary schooling is that's happening. We were told any money from birthdays, confirmations. Of course, they were Catholic growing up. So there
Triggered.
was, yeah, of course. Any money that came in went into your bank account, and it was to be for your university. There was no question. And it was always funny to see my friends thinking, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll take a year off and travel. Like, no, we're 18, I was going to university. That was a given, and they never had that opportunity. And it was always that because they couldn't provide us that social circle, that I was always jealous of, the kids I went to school with who maybe they were from West Van or they were from, somewhere in Toronto where they grew up with that built-in social network. And maybe their parents were able to introduce them to people to get ahead. My parents were it was a great and caring family, but they didn't know how to do that. That wasn't what they came. They didn't we didn't go to museums, we didn't go to shows, we didn't travel, we weren't exposed to those kinds of things. It was my dad was a bricklayer, and he said, okay, Saturdays you're working, and any money you goes to school. And so it was always about working towards that greater end. And they were also very involved in the Italian community in Vancouver. And my father was actually the president of the Italian Center in Vancouver, which I later became as well. And it was, him doing this that I think encouraged me to be more involved in that community. And because the Italian Center historically was created by immigrants who didn't have a place to gather. And so the they were all largely tradespeople, they got together and they literally built this center in East Van to create a place where they could socialize because they didn't have that anywhere else. And so he was one of the people who helped with that and became one of the first presidents. And they just encouraged us to get involved in that way.
Do you feel connected to your Italian heritage still?
Very much so. Yeah, like it's not hard in Vancouver, right? I mean, it's we grew up in East Van, and then as part of the great Italian migration, moved to North Burnaby, where all the the immigrant Italians settled. But between Commercial Drive and there was maybe because the family was always very involved in the Italian Center, and we always had these people around, we were always tied into it.
Yeah.
I mean, we were told that until we were in kindergarten, we didn't speak English, me and my brothers, because we that's how much we were surrounded by the Italian culture. And of course, it was interesting to see with my wife, who's Canadian, generationally back, multiple generations Canadian, to have her be exposed to this very cultural family that she didn't have on her side of the family, and how much she loved it, such that now she's the one pushing us to go to Italy every year. And to be like, she just loved being part of that sort of charitable food culture.
Yep. Well, I'm biased, so I love being Italian too. It's great.
Hey, Luca.
Hey, Jane.
You were the board chair of downtown.
Of what?
Of downtown
Oh,
Van.
okay. You got to be more specific.
During the pandemic.
Oh, yes. That was a fun time.
Right? It was. I remember it clearly. It's when I first got to know you. I know it wasn't exactly what you expected your term to be like, but
I don't think anyone did.
Yeah, but what was your experience leading downtown Van during COVID?
It was so weird. I mean, I can't remember. Did you all still had people coming in, right? Or did you guys?
Rarely.
I was in every day, and I was bringing checks over to you, so we were seeing each other regularly.
Because if you recall, I mean, Vancouver didn't have the forced shutdown that other cities did. We had pubs, restaurants, salons, I think, were forced, but offices, while encouraged, weren't forced to be shut down. And so, being that my wife and I lived downtown, we were in Gastown at the time, and her office did shut down voluntarily, and so she had to work at home. And it was it was a loft in Gastown where sound traveled. We couldn't both work there.
Yeah. And
because my office hadn't forced a shutdown, there was only a skeleton crew that came in. There was maybe 10 of us out of 140 that were coming in, and that was the IT guys, the accounting, the bare minimum needed. I was coming to work every day because I could walk to work, and it was comfortable, and I had a setup and all the rest. But it was bizarre to walk from, say, Gastown to our office on Burrard and Dunsmuir, where bent all three. Shout out to Hudson. Great work.
Shout
Great
out.
work. Great work, Chuck. He listens, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's calling in about 5 minutes.
And to walk and Gastown, which was so heavily retail service,
Yeah.
was just nothing. You didn't see a soul. Walking down Water Street and then up Burrard, you'd maybe encounter 3-4 people,
Yep.
and it was just this weird apocalypse, Walking Dead kind of situation where everything was empty, and you started to feel, after a while, I hesitate to say you enjoyed it, but you felt like the city was yours.
Yeah.
Like you felt an ownership over it. And so, walking to work, being in the office where no one was around, you were wearing sweatpants and ball caps, and yes, you'd come by to sign checks because we were
Yeah.
doing it. It was
Yeah.
easier to sign checks than to
Yeah.
do anything else. And as chair of this organization that spent so much of its mandate encouraging and subsidizing and bolstering downtown businesses,
Yeah.
particularly ground level businesses, it was very hard because we had to pivot so quickly. What do we do now? We can't use placemaking is out. Festivals, nothing that we would traditionally, that you all basically put most of your budget towards, was available. And so it wasn't just a crisis in the city, but a crisis as to what does our organization do? How do we serve a purpose? What can we do to aid downtown businesses? And we very quickly struck a downtown economic recovery task force composed of business leaders across the city.
Yep.
And it was just brainstorming and continually trying new ideas on things that it was always that again, during, you recall, it was start stop
Yeah.
during COVID, where people can come back, they can't come back, people
Yeah.
come back. And so every time we came up with an idea to try and bring people back downtown, there'd be another variant, and something would happen. And it everything became virtual. All of our meetings were virtual. It was tough to get people excited. Our board meetings were, they weren't exciting like they are, I imagine, today.
Our AGM.
Our AGM.
Yeah, that was
It was
virtual.
on
You
Zoom.
couldn't
Yeah.
talk, you couldn't interact with anyone.
Yeah.
And again, that struggle
Wild.
of what we could do to help, and all these sort of programs that it was tough. It was depressing, to know that we were here to do, this was our mandate, and we couldn't do it. And the one thing that I am proud of, that we've talked about in the past, that we did manage to have a big hand in, and I don't think you all get enough credit for, was the extension of the patio program, right? For
Mm.
restaurants and services at the time, to be able to serve people with those extended patios. And we pushed very hard with the city to get that.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of time. And for a lot of restaurants and services, that was the lifeline that kept them afloat. And I don't know that people acknowledge how much work this organization put into that,
Mhm.
how much work this organization put into trying to bring people back downtown during a very difficult time. And yeah, I do, look, in hindsight, I do wish we could have done more, and I regret that I didn't get to do some of the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hosting events, the attending all the concerts and whatever else. But it was an exciting 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. Did you chair longer than you were supposed to or something?
Yeah, we had the chair term is 2 years, and the chair prior to mine, who I was serving as vice chair with, unfortunately had to step down. He had some personal matters he had to deal with, and so I took over during his term, in advance of my term, and I think it ended up being maybe just over 3 years, like or
Your
3 years.
full chair term?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
It was at least close
it
to, if
was
not 3 years,
almost
close to
4.
3 years.
I was going to say 3.5.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was he had to step down just because of family things. But so that ended up happening. But it was probably only about half 6 months or so was not COVID,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very new to the organization. I think I just started in 2020. So I don't think I
Right in the
was
middle.
really aware of all of the difficulties that were going on behind the scenes. I was
It was intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you coming in?
I
That would have
was
been a
at the
hard time to
beginning and
start if you
then
weren't coming in.
yeah.
We were one of the first organizations to call people back even like 3 days a week. And then one of the first to go 4, and then one of the first to go 5. Yeah, so if you started at a very intense time in 2020,
Yeah.
and I don't think the full office team was back yet.
No. I think I worked from home for a lot of it as well. I was very afraid of COVID. I have
Everybody
asthma.
was. Yeah.
And so I didn't want to be exposed to it.
Right.
But yeah, I was just saying that it was so interesting to like grow a social media following and like grow a brand when number one, I barely even knew what the organization did because we were in the middle of COVID. Like I didn't really see
Yeah.
what
Well, I
was
don't think
going
we knew what
on.
we were doing. Like we didn't have an identity
Yeah.
during that period because everything that we had historically we're doing, not everything, but I'd say 70% of what the organization typically did on a given year couldn't be done anymore.
Mhm.
No, especially for an organization that is very strategic. Like we plan out our year.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. We have clear outcomes we want to achieve. And that was gone.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like I didn't fully realize what we did at least until like 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
if you, but again, if you think back, and it was hilarious because you remember, the when things initially shut down, St. Patrick's Day was like the very first. Everything shut down because that was the impetus to shut down all the
Yes.
bars. And I remember Gastown, but I took a photo of Gastown because it was dead because you didn't have any of the green vomit everywhere that you saw
Oh, lovely.
every other year.
Mm,
And
mm.
it shut down, and we kept and Trudeau came on. And we were all watching that morning with all these announcements, and the discussion was by Easter we'll be back. This will be done by Easter, and everyone was sort of okay. Well, we can 2 months. We can take that off. That's
Yeah.
fine. We'll deal with it. And then of course Easter goes by, and then just longer and just kept getting. But we kept getting told,
Mhm.
oh yeah, by this day it'll be taken care of.
You know, I haven't stopped to think about that time for a while.
Same.
Yeah, it was really quite something to go through.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because we're dealing. I've had a discussion with lawyers in my office is that in the legal industry we're dealing with a generation of lawyers that say anyone below a 7-year experience level, they couldn't do any business development for say 3 years because COVID.
Yeah.
And then our industry just went through such a boom cycle after COVID that they didn't have to do any business development. And so we have these lawyers who are, 6 or 7 years in who've never had to go out and try and seek out work because the time that they've been working has been so full.
Yeah.
And now, potentially heading into, I don't know, the downturns that we keep getting told are coming. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out because there's, what we're seeing is a bunch of these. It's not just lawyers, but a bunch of people in the workforce who are under that age who don't really have the EQ, the social skill set that you were forced to develop pre-COVID, right? Because
Yeah.
they just didn't have the opportunity and they didn't have to.
Yeah. Knowing what we do now as an organization, I can't imagine what you both were going through during that time because it must have been so
Right? There was only so much. There was really only so
Yeah.
much you could do,
Yeah.
right? And it was a lot of, like I said, a lot of brainstorming, and then a lot of false starts, and a lot of things that we kept trying. And I couldn't even go over all the ideas we had because it was always premised on bringing people back downtown,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we kept getting told, yeah, by a month from now we should be able to bring people. And so
Yeah.
we would put money and time into some kind of initiative, only to have it canceled, when we got closer to it.
Mhm.
It was a very creative time, though, because so many of our conversations were like, what if we did this? Or what would it look like if we did this?
Yeah.
And, we were very much figuring it out as we went, and nobody had the answers.
No. Oh, no one had
Yeah.
gone through this.
Right.
You
It's
know?
crazy.
Remember, we had a takeout to help out campaign. Encouraging
Oh,
people
I
to-
remember that.
Yeah. Order from their favorite restaurants.
Order groceries and things. Like it was, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways.
Let's go to 2026.
Fast forward. Leading a global network like Meritas, how did that experience shift your view of the legal industry? How did you even get to that position?
Yeah, just a bit of background on that. So, our Boughton, the firm I am president of, we're about 50 lawyers in Vancouver. And so any firm that's has a regional office like that, you're just one office. Clients obviously have international interests, not just across Canada, across the US, but literally, and some clients are just international. Because we can only practice in Vancouver, you have to figure out a way to service those clients in other jurisdictions. And so firms like ours will join networks of law firms that are affiliated internationally, so that I have a client who needs work in Hong Kong, in Mexico City, in New York. We have a firm in the network that has been vetted to enter into this network and approved and certified such that we know they're a good law firm that we can trust to send our clients to those firms. Now, it's still a separate firm. They operate independently, but we don't have to Google firms to figure out where to send these clients. We know that these people will take care of our clients. And so the way the network is generally set up is like Downtown Van. It's a society. It's incorporated in the U.S., and it has an international board of directors. There's 21 board members, and it's composed of firm leaders from around the world. So a few years back, Boughton's been part of this network for 30 some odd years that we've gone back to this network, Meritas. And in fact, one of my former partners, George Cadman, chaired that board as well. So we've actually both chaired two boards, DT Van and that board.
Yeah.
I like to joke with George that I'm following his community engagement path, but he doesn't usually laugh at that. And so I got on the board of Meritas a few years ago. It's a 3-year term. And just because it was an exciting opportunity, the meetings are international, you get to travel around, meet people. And at the end of my term, I hadn't really considered it, but I had a few people approach me and say, hey, would you consider running to chair the board? And, it's a big commitment because it's another 3-year term. And it usually means about, 7 or 8 trips internationally a year.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, but, I sat down with my wife and we spoke about it. And, she lives to travel. So for her, it was like, how can you say no? And for me, it was just good timing. I was, we're healthy. We can travel. I can fit it into my career. It was an opportunity to travel around the world and meet lawyers and law firms internationally. And so I couldn't say no. So I put my name in, and that was an intense chair election procedure. Compared to here, where it's sort of a given that you go from vice chair to chair. That process took 6 months. There was, written applications. There was interviews with a nominating committee composed of 7, just drilling you internationally, because it's like I said, it's they want to make sure that they're entrusting leadership of this network for 3 years to someone that they can trust them. And so it worked out. Yeah, I'm completing my 2nd year in next month.
Nice.
And then I have 1 more year left. And it's just been very fun it was a nice progression from a very local focused board like DT Van and very focused on my backyard, being that I live and work downtown, to go then onto this international kind of board and be able to have that experience in contradiction to this experience. It was a really nice shift, because it largely that was the other reason why I was able to get more involved in that, is that I had sort of just finished my term as chair here as I was going on to that board.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good for Boughton too, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's a lot of, international profile.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of work referred to us as well. That's the
Nice.
other benefit
Yeah.
of being part, not just us sending clients to these firms internationally, but them sending their clients to us. And I'm really hoping with FIFA coming to the city that it presents another international spotlight on Vancouver, and that it encourages even more um, understanding and knowledge of the city amongst these firms. But yeah, I mean, it's been very good to put Vancouver. The network's 9,000 lawyers, I think over almost 200 law firms. So to have our firm through my position continually highlighted has been it's been good for the office in terms of just it's like having a big social media profile, right?
Yeah.
So when you're serving as board chair of that organization, do you feel like you're giving back?
Yeah, I mean that one's a little different because up until this point of this board, every other board I've been a part of has largely been things that were more sort of me personally that I was interested in. Whether it was uh, I started off, the first board I was on was the Pacific Cinematheque, a theater on Howe Street downtown here. The repertory theater. They show old movies and all the rest, and I was very into film. The Italian Center was the next one because of my Italian background.
Yeah.
This was a little more focused professionally because our firm has been affiliated with DT Van. But then Meritas was the very first one that was entirely business.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was fun to travel around, but if it weren't for Boughton, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So it was interesting to have that type of community. Well, it's hard to say community because it is a community, but it's such a big community to have that focus only because of the business side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was the question you asked.
No,
I think
yeah.
I veered off from that.
What
No,
was
it
the
was-
coolest place you've traveled because of?
Oh, that's gonna be a tough one. I mean, it's already gone to a point that I don't remember some of the Christine, my wife, will remind me. It's like, oh, remember that restaurant? I was like, I don't even remember where that was. I mean, last year it was New York, Hong Kong, Mexico City, Brisbane, Rome, Milan, Vienna. Of those last year, is an easier question to say than favorite across the board. I mean, obviously Italy is always going to be Italy, and it's always going to be a favorite. But Brisbane was really interesting, and that I thought I really came away from Brisbane with thoughts for our city. It's bigger than Vancouver, and it's got a better sort of climate. There's 10 months of the year it's sunny, but and a lot of that was driving what they could do. But being in that city and seeing how much public activation there was, how much they had managed to integrate the outside into all their sort of restaurants and buildings. And again, we can't necessarily do that here because it rains so much. But frankly, we can talk about this later. It actually made me a little sad coming back here because there were so many public activations there that my first thought if we had done them here, that they wouldn't survive. They wouldn't have. They were open to the public, and I think that some of these things, for example, Brisbane's not on the water, but they do have a river, and so in their sort of Yaletown equivalent area, they had manufactured a beach on a pool. So it was this massive pool, imagine a much bigger kids pool. And they had created this man-made beach, kind of like there were all these cabanas. It was all sand, and it looked like a beach with trees and all the rest. But it was entirely open. Like there was no fencing, no gating to get in. And I just remember thinking, like, if we had this in Vancouver, there'd be garbage all over this within a week, right? Like, how could we? How come they? How
that
come
makes
they?
me so sad.
No, but it's. I mean, am I wrong? Like,
I hear you.
Like it wouldn't have been the respect that they had for their sort of public sort of activations that really, it made me jealous of and again, they're bigger, but not hugely bigger.
Yeah.
We should be able to do those kinds of things, right? So that was an interesting city last year. This year it's already done Puerto Rico. and then
Ooh.
we're heading to what's this year? This year is New Orleans, Paris, Lisbon, Tokyo, Cape Town, and then Rome again. But I'm excited to see what Cape Town is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
I've
always
never
wanted to go there
been that
too.
far. That'll be we're gonna do a safari, because if I'm gonna fly that far out, you're gonna do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
100%.
30 hours of travel.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how often I'm gonna do that.
That's my dream.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that
A
one.
good safari is amazing.
I need to do
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
before.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Christine gave me the details. It's like you wake up at 4 a.m. though, and they gotta.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah, but it's worth it. I remember I was in Tanzania and I got up early. We had taken a safari the day before, and this place was out in the middle of nowhere. I got up early and I was just sitting having a cup of coffee in this jungle-like setting, and an elephant walked up.
So cool.
And I heard it coming, and I was like, what is that sound? It was an elephant.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Elephants just exist
It
there.
just kind of walked up.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, elephant.
I'm so jealous. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I look forward to that. But I mean, it's last year I think for being involved with DT Van, I find that I'm spending so much time now when I go to these cities looking at public activation.
Yeah.
Of course.
And trying to still thinking, despite not being on the board here anymore or being in a leadership role, I'm still trying to see things like, oh, could we do that? Like, is that something
Yeah.
we could bring back to Vancouver as a fun sort of idea
Yeah.
to animate the city?
Yeah. Working in a BIA has changed my mindset completely.
How you look
about
at things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How I look at things when I visit other places and
How you experience those other
Yes.
places.
Well, there's
Yes,
a greater
yeah.
appreciation. Like even just again, coming back to how many public washrooms there were.
Mm.
So many and open 24/7.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it would ever occurred to me that how hard that is to maintain for a city, a 24/7 clean washroom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And because knowing what our city goes through to do, and unfortunately, we're not doing that super well, but to see how many big and number of washrooms there were in these cities was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You just
know.
don't think of those things.
We need more of those.
I think of those things all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you do,
Yeah.
but
Maybe the regular person doesn't.
Yeah,
though.
that's true. Yeah. I think about public washrooms all the time.
Yeah, all on my mind
maybe,
constantly.
well, that's you, Jane. That's too. We've already told you this might be a problem. You're spending too much time talking about public washrooms.
Oh my
We're
God.
all good with the amount of time you spend doing that.
So you spent a big part of your career giving back, as you've mentioned. How has that influenced you in your career at Boughton or just in life in general?
It's and it's something I've shared with a lot of the younger lawyers in my office, is that in a perfect world, should you choose law or any profession, you hope to have a long career. Let's say you finish mid-20s. If you're a doctor, maybe a bit later, maybe in your early 30s, but you're still looking at a horizon of potential, ideally 40 years. And the job, not just being a lawyer, but frankly any job, it comes with stresses, and you have to find a way to handle that stress. And a lot of people will turn to family, they'll turn to sports, whatever else. I used community engagement because I could not just have my job, just being a lawyer every day. I don't think looking at a 40-year career would have been enough.
Mm-hmm.
And being involved in any number of these boards was not just personally fulfilling, because generally I was doing things that I enjoyed, and which is one of the pieces of advice I give to younger lawyers who want to be engaged is look for something that you're already interested in. Like I said, my first board was a theater. I was very interested in film. Look at things that you're interested in, whether it's sports teams or whatever, and that'll make engagement easier. But it served to as a outlet for, if I was having a rough day at the office, going to something that was different.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular at the Italian Center, which is kind of alluded to, that it was a older demographic of membership. And Sofia can attest to dealing with old Italians. You may not know this as well, Jane, but when you try and propose something to a room of old Italian people that they don't like, I had sticks shaken at me. I had threats. And they get very angry about things that change. Change
They
is
don't
not
like
something
change.
old Italian people do not like change. Even if you present it with pasta, they're still not going for that change. And so learning how to deal with that room, in particular at that board, people who didn't like what you were saying, people who you had to get on side, people that were on committees that you had formed who were actively working against you to achieve what you wanted to achieve, really aided when I came back to the office to say, okay, these guys, these are lawyers. This is nothing compared to a room of old Italian ladies. No one is shaking their cane at me here. I can deal with this, my partner's table much easier, and dealing with that sort of being able to handle a meeting, being able to handle, and the other thing you have to remember with these boards, everyone's volunteering, right? I can't. Yes, you can arguably kick someone off a board, but they're not my employee. I can't just fire them. And they're all giving of their time. I may not disagree with all of them, but they're all there. In a perfect world, they're all there to help. They might not be helping, but they think they are. And so you're trying to balance this volunteerism that everyone's committing to, but still trying to get your agenda passed. And balancing that, those varying ideas, whether it's just running a meeting or actually trying to get a vote passed, I think really became useful skill sets.
Yeah.
Weren't you heavily involved in the Italian Cultural Center redevelopment?
Yeah. So
isn't that a time of change? How did that go?
Okay. Well, to be clear, it didn't go. So this was
plot twist.
I sat on that board as a regular director for about 7 years, and then I started to get pushed by other board members to say, "Hey, listen, we really need a younger voice in running this.
Yeah.
We want change." And this was a group of very vocal members, and the facility, if you're familiar with it, and it's on, it's 4 acres in the middle of East
it's
Van.
huge.
And it was aging. As I said, it was built initially by tradespeople, but they weren't architects. They didn't design it properly. It just the way that, one of the big things I learned is that the way that the sewers and the water mains went, it should have been actually where the parking lot was, should have been where the center was, and the parking lot should have been on the other side, because they couldn't access the sewage, and it just made it very difficult. So it wasn't done properly. It was, by that time, 30, 40 years old. It needed a lot of work. And so they suggested to us, like, listen, if we want to bring in younger members here, we need to fix the infrastructure. And that was the initiative with which I was suggested to be put forward to brought on to bring that change. And I was president of that board for about 4 years, 3 of which was entirely devoted to this redevelopment. And we put together an amazing team, people that you would know. We had Enriquez Architects downtown, did these beautiful designs. Boza Properties came in as the general contractor. Our old friend Gary Pooney came in to help with stakeholder engagement. And this was, for real estate, this was, a dream team, especially with the connection to the Italian community. We proposed a $300 million development. It would have been a whole new facility, theater, gym.
Wow.
We would have been given some commercial units for stores and restaurants at the base. In exchange for these things to work financially, you got to build towers.
Yeah.
That's the trade-off.
I see.
Right? You have to build apartments. Otherwise, how can any developer build this and then give us everything for free?
Right.
So the trade-off was they would take the land, they would build our whole new community center, this beautiful, and I still have videos where what do they call it when they do like the bird's eye view through it, where they do a tour of it. These computer generated models that were just gorgeous. And when I feel sad, I make myself feel even sadder. I watch them again. And in exchange, Boza was going to take a couple towers. And we knew this was going to be a hard sell, because the perception was, we were giving this away to this developer. So we spent, once the team got put together, once the designs were done, we started the stakeholder engagement. And it was a good year and a half of just inviting people to community events to hosting Q&As. And I was there 3 nights a week for this period, doing presentations, trying to explain stratification to a bunch of older people who didn't know what it was and just kept getting upset that you're giving away our center and blah, blah, blah. And they couldn't understand that this was how we get this facility built. And then, fast forward to the day where it came to the big vote. And it was just one of those things where, you see it on television where you're in front of this big room of people, old people who are going to vote. Like we had it in the big hall. There were hundreds of people there. And as soon as I walked in, it was going to be just a vote. And as soon as I walked in, I looked around and I was like, oh, crap. There's a lot of people here I don't recognize.
Oh, no.
People who didn't come to any of the engagement. And what had happened was we had a few very angry older members who felt like they weren't. I took the approach in the engagement was that everyone has the opportunity to be heard.
Yeah.
So I treated everyone equally. Some of these people didn't agree. They felt they were special. And they felt they should have special attention, that I should have gone to them one-on-one because they viewed themselves as pillars and they should have been consulted and I should have had their consent individually. Legally, that wasn't required.
It's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's the way it goes.
Yeah. And so what these people did, and I still made, what in hindsight, that may have been, I should have sucked it up and maybe done that to get this passed. But I felt that wasn't fair. I was like, you aren't any better than anyone else. Everyone here has the same. I've invited you to all these Q&As. I've invited you to sit down with these things. Did I come to your place of business? No, I didn't do that. And so we had this vote, and these people who felt affronted had mobilized a bunch of people, they were members, but members who hadn't come or been informed on anything, but had a vote. And they just flooded the vote. Even still, it was less than 10 votes we lost by.
Oh.
Right?
Oh,
it was a big majority.
That's
We needed 75% of the members to vote in favor, which is a crazy high threshold. And we lost by 10 votes because they mobilized more. And it was the biggest disappointment, I think, professionally I had because I'd spent so much of my time on this. And, we was like, okay, we washed it off and we said, okay, we'll do another vote. We'll try this again. And, in speaking with the partners, the developers and all the rest, are like, listen, even if you pass this at those numbers, this was going to be a fight every step of the way.
Yeah.
And they weren't interested in that. Had this been a groundswell of support, they would have been, okay, great.
Yeah.
But to know that we were just getting it over the line, even if we did a second vote and we just got it over the line, it would have meant that there were enough people upset about it that every step of the way, there would have been hurdles.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one more question on that before we move on.
But in hindsight, it would have been perfect timing because we hit COVID and we would have gone right in, construction continued.
Yeah.
We could have built it through COVID and came out of COVID with this beautiful new
It's
facility
disappointing.
without a loss.
Okay, so you said it was one of the more difficult things that you went through as a leader. We often learn the most as a result of difficult times. What did you learn from that?
Well, again, a lot of it was being in front of a room of people who were angry at you and being able to not, lose control and lose your temper and be patient with people who, listen, they just don't understand.
Yeah.
And if they're not understanding, partially it's my fault because I'm not explaining it clearly, but that patience. And then, again, should I have reached out to those people individually? Probably a part of my ego wouldn't let me because I felt they should be treated the same as everyone else. And if I had wanted this approved, I probably should have sucked it up and taken the ego out of it and gone to them and said, kiss the ring and done the whole thing to get the approval.
But you were also in a tough position too. You were trying to make so many different parties and people happy,
Yeah. And like I said, even if we had passed it now, in hindsight, it would have been such a fight. Every step of the way, because there would have been other approvals we would have needed.
Yeah.
And they would have been so upset. And I think at the end of the day, they would have been happy. And I regret that we couldn't do that for the city. Like, it would have been such a center for East Van. It would have driven the commercial drive population further down to Nanaimo, and it would have been a whole like little community. There would have
Yeah.
been like a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of theater, gym, all this kind of stuff.
Probably would have connected the younger Italian
It would for
community
sure
as
have.
well, because I think, like, I don't know, we call it the Italian Club in Calgary, but you don't see a whole lot of the younger generation going there
No, you don't.
because they can't identify
It's
with
been
it.
the struggle
Yeah.
always, right? Because like, it's largely now a catering facility. They have
Mhm.
a tenanted restaurant.
Mhm.
And then they offer language lessons, which are great, and they have a little library and a little museum. But it's not, without that sort of um, that big group of offerings. It's not a downtown. Like, why would people
Yeah.
go there?
Yeah.
Oh, they have a parking lot. Parking's easy. It's
Well,
just not enough.
maybe we can run it back, and maybe in the future.
What's going to happen at some point is it'll have to happen because it's too big of a lot to
Mm,
maintain, and the facility is going to have some construction issues that they're not going to be able to fix based on cash flow. And unfortunately, when that time comes, the decision will be taken away from them in that they will have to sell a part of it
yeah.
to facilitate it. So whereas we had presented this thing that was win-win, and we spent years putting it together, the next time the opportunity comes up, it will not be their choice.
Yeah.
They'll be forced to do it.
Yeah.
So when I look back on the 8 years that I've known you, we went through some really serious times, but we also laughed a lot.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite downtown van memories?
Whew, that's a tough one. It has been so long. I mean, listen, to the degree that I was able to be involved in public events, I did always enjoy hosting roundtables.
Mhm.
And when we could get the community together on a subject matter that was of interest, and I would get to introduce the subject and open it up to discussion. I really enjoyed the offerings we were able to give to our members of access to city council
Yeah.
and council candidates over the years,
Yeah.
the debates we held. I remember at one point during COVID, I interviewed the then mayor, Kennedy Stewart, virtually. And I looked back on it and I looked at the video, and it was just, I had two screens up at the time, and I looked like so untrustworthy because I had questions on one side and I had the camera on this, and I kept doing this. And I was like, oh man, I look like a crazy person when I went and looked at it.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't stop doing this because I was looking at my questions, looking at the camera, and clearly,
Yeah.
hadn't done this before. And it
Yeah.
was like an hour-long interview with Kennedy Stewart.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
so that
remember
was
that.
fun.
Soph, did you ever have to write Luca jokes
Oh,
for
yes.
his speeches?
I think I tried. I don't know if I
I
succeeded.
think we all tried.
There were some at the time. Heather always had the most success because
Yeah.
she loved puns. And,
Yeah.
oh, well, I taught her how to love puns, and so she would always write those in. But then we'd still have to, work on them a
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I think maybe she was starting to capture my voice, but she had struggled with a couple different chairs, and then me coming in late, or not late, earlier than anticipated,
Yeah.
and then having to get to know a new chair. And so, yeah, that was fun. I always enjoyed the opportunities that were presented. It's like, hey, we got Just for Laughs tickets. Hey, we got tickets for this event.
Yeah.
To be able to represent. I remember seeing a couple of operas at the time. Going to the symphony and the going to VIF and being a representative for the board as chair to express the mandate, to be able to go to city council
Yeah.
and explain to them our concerns. Those were always fun and interesting.
Mhm.
So I'll end where we began, and that is how giving of your time you've always been. And I know it wasn't exactly what you expected, especially during COVID, but you were the right person
I
to
appreciate
chair
it.
this organization at that time. So thank you, Luca.
I appreciate it. I mean, like I said, it's yeah. Could we have done other things? Maybe, but I mean, I don't know how much more we could have done. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm always still, a block away, still a phone call away.
Yep.
My wife's coming on this chair next year.
Yes, she
Woohoo.
is.
So, you're not getting rid of me. I'll write her speeches for her.
You can write the puns.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how if she does much better. Those were also the fun times when, especially at the holiday events,
Mhm.
where no one is listening to you, and you're trying to give a speech, and it was like, "Ooh, this is a tough
that's
crowd.
rough.
No one wants to hear what I have to say," and you spend so much time working on the material, and
Yeah.
it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Like a comedian, you got to flop sometimes.
50% is my hit rate.
Nice.
I feel like out of the even now, so when I do when I speak at these conferences for Meritas, it's often I go in the morning. I'm like the first up, 9:30, 10 a.m. And at least at a lot of the DT van stuff, there were drinks involved.
Yeah.
Now I'm going in cold,
Oof.
and it is hard.
We're
It
both
is
like,
all
whoa.
to 9:30 in the morning. People are eating breakfast.
9:30.
They're coming in late.
Yeah.
Brains are waking up.
Yeah, and it is they're not laughing at that time.
Oh.
Yeah. I try to institute 2-drink minimum, but that was frowned upon at 9 a.m.
Oh, and then you would have had to engage in the debate about champagne or prosecco. And
Oh my God, we did have that.
Yes, don't get them started.
Our
Do not get him
annual meeting
started.
in New Orleans,
Oh,
we
you
have
did.
we have 7 board members. Each year, 7 new board members come on, and 7 cycle off. And they give during the board meeting we give them a chance to say
Yeah.
something. And I said, can we have champagne in the room so we can toast them all? And I get a message back. It's like, we got prosecco. I was like, that's not the same.
It's
I
not
could
the
have
same.
told them never to do that. Never to interchange.
I mean, you can call
those.
bubbles.
Yeah, true.
But
Bubbly.
if you
Yeah.
want, but prosecco's, even as an Italian, I gotta tell you, there's some good proseccos, but it's not champagne.
Disagree. But final question, rapid fire.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurants in our
Oh
district.
crap! That wasn't the rapid fire question you gave me that I was prepared for.
It's too late.
Oh.
Switching it up. Our favorite business is
I can answer for you.
You want to answer for me?
Isn't it where you get your suits made?
No, I change between. I don't have a guaranteed place where I go for clothing. I mean, we live in Yaletown, and there's such a plethora of good restaurants. My wife and I love entertaining, and so we entertain a lot of home clients and friends. So if we go out, it's generally something we can't do,
Yeah.
we can't make. So sushi, our current favorite is Tom's on Davie Street.
love Tom Sushi.
Yeah,
never been.
it's
So good.
very high end, but still reasonably affordable. My wife historically, before when she was in school, worked at Miku, so
Love that.
yeah,
Mm.
still like Miku. It's tough these days because we do travel so much, but and I'm not generally going out for drinking anymore because we just have so many things going on during the evening. So it's not the question I was prepared for.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna
wait a
have
minute.
to start
What
your own
about your-
pizza business.
Sorry, what?
You're gonna have to
yeah.
start your own pizza business, maybe.
Yeah, except I'm going to make
Chitons.
a lot less money than as a lawyer.
Yeah. Fair.
So maybe when I retire.
But do you still go to the suit making place?
So where did I get this? Yeah, this one's from Indochino,
Yeah.
but it's not the only place I buy suits. Now that we're traveling a lot more, I'll try and buy things from unique pieces from
Yeah. Fair.
wherever we are. But it's hard to go out because we travel so much now, and we do go out so much on those trips. Generally speaking, when we come back to Vancouver, we do want to cook more and all the rest. What I will say that I've really appreciated since COVID, one of the upshots of COVID is the food that we can get now delivered home, grocery wise. The great produce, the great from local farmers in Abbotsford. Chickens from Abbotsford, red meat, fish, whatever. It's so much more accessible now in the city, and we're able to cook much better at home now. So yeah, I guess
Love
if I had
that.
to pick a place, it's our patio.
Well,
Period.
yeah. You
Yeah.
should see his patio.
I bet it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, Luca, we could talk all day.
What time is it?
It's time to go.
Oh, okay.
We only have an hour. But thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
It was great to have you on. Maybe we'll do a part 2.
Oh, I think we should.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because we didn't even really get to
We didn't get
know.
to any
5
listener
questions.
calls. We didn't do any cut to commercials.
Well, I gotta set up the phone line first.
Oh,
Chuck's probably on hold.
I really want to say after a commercial, and now back to our show. And we can get to do that.
Fade out.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
thanks,
Well,
Luca.
that's a
Thank
wrap.
you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Hey Downtown Van. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode with Luca Citton. If you'd like to learn more about our organization and all that we do, you can visit our website, dtvan.ca. Follow along with the podcast at Hey Downtown Van, and please do not forget to hit that subscribe button, whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, or listening on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. And all that we do, you can dtvan.ca. Follow along with the podcast at Hey Downtown Van, and please do not